This is Charlie EAS here, and I am going to make another collection update. Since the last one, I was at 33 no weather radios. I own a total now of 38 radios, including 4 rare ones that were a pain in the butt, more like the ass, to obtain. I'm going to start with a radio that some people have, some people don't. And that is the Midland WR30. Basically the predecessor to the 74-210. Now, you're probably wondering, what's the dang difference between the 74-210 and the WR30? Well, the answer to that question is practically nothing. The only difference is that the WR30, unlike the 74-210, actually activates on a weekly test. Well, the 74-210 activates, but it actually sounds an alert. So you actually have a siren on a weekly test. The 74-210, you don't. The other thing, which isn't really a feature, is the rarity. So the WR30 is a pretty rare radio. You don't really find it that often. And there was one on eBay that was sitting there. It was going for $150. I sent a seller an offer for about, I don't know, $65, and they accepted. And I was like, all right, screw it. It's a WR30. It's pretty rare. So I was able to pick it up. But it was on the market for 2 weeks or more, and I'm shocked no one grabbed it because these radios, they don't come up very often. I mean, they just don't. Here's the lamp. You can see the backlight, very dim. Pretty much the same thing as the 74-210, not 200, 210. I might have been saying it wrong. The 74-200 is pretty much, the setup is even worse. If you think the 74-210 and the WR30 are bad, the 74-200 is absolutely horrendous. But this one, the speaker sounds better.
Highs in the upper 50s. East winds around 5 miles an hour.
Compared to the 74-210.
Miles an hour in the afternoon.
Look at that.
Chance of rain 70%. Tuesday night.
I mean, the speaker on the 74-210 sounds terrible. Now, it will activate for alerts, like before you can see weekly test on it. Both of them activated last time, and I've decided, all right, why not put the WR30 on the wall? And it sounds like a recom. They basically ripped off recom.
Chance of rain 40%. Wednesday night, mostly cloudy. Lows in the mid-50s.
It has that same crapping
50% chance of...
siren as a recom. And I don't understand what Midland was thinking, but I don't really know. But the WR30 is a rare radio, and it was my first technical rare one that I owned besides the 991 with the red logo. That one, for sure, was one of the rarest radios I had at the time, although the 991 has been getting worse and worse to find, harder and harder. Anyway, next to it here is my version 5 and then my version 4. Redicus just made that stupid beep again. It's been doing that since I've had it. But the WR30, if you can find a WR30, it's a pretty good radio. Just be aware of how stupid the setup is. It's kind of complicated. I mean, Clay Ranger 143's review on the WR30 was pretty good. He basically tells you all you need to know about that radio. But the setup is confusing as crap to do. All right, next radio, and we're going to go all the way next to my desk. Is going to be the Bearcat WX100's replacement. If you all may know, I bought a Bearcat WX100 for a price I probably will not mention. It was less than $300, but it was more than $200. And the seller sent me a broken Bearcat WX100, which would not power on at all. The seller was like, I will not mention his name. But he said, maybe it's the polarity of the adapter. Well, it didn't come with the adapter. I bought the wrong polarity adapter, but it was a 9 volt. In order for the wrong polarity adapter, negative polarity adapter fry a positive polarity port or device. The voltage and whatever the current is has to be exceed that, I believe, I could be wrong, of the radio's requirement. And that wasn't the case. I plugged it in, nothing happened. I plugged that same adapter into many of my other radios, nothing. It wouldn't even turn on, but when I plugged the original adapter in, it turned on just fine. 9-volt batteries wouldn't work. It wouldn't power on at all. It'd give you this slight static out of the speaker. Nothing was working. So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it to Landon, weather radio guru. He's based in northern North Carolina. I gave it to him to see if he could repair it, and apparently the board was faulty. So we thought maybe it was a capacitor issue. It was the board. I tried getting a refund from the seller first thing. He wouldn't do it, and yeah. So I wasted a ton of money on the WX100, which is a radio I will never buy again. If you want to try to buy a WX100, go for it. But the prices of the WX100 are absolutely abysmal. Good luck finding one more than $100. No, not more, less than $200. Because one stupid bidder decided, all right, let's bid $1,000 on a dagged out WX100, because why not? And jack the frickin' prices up. So, do not buy a WX100 that's overpriced. I learned the hard way. I got to rip off WX100. That's besides the point. This BC370 CRS is a rare radio. It's not like black and silver rare, but it is rare. Uniden discontinued these. They're very hard to find, and they have a whop ton more features than a WX100 could imagine at a much more reasonable price that I got this one for. The WX100 doesn't even have AM and FM. It's just a standard weather alert radio. While this one has scanning abilities, it has AM and FM abilities with pretty good reception, and it has the weather band. It can pick up fire, police, and the military band as well. I need to learn how to use, how to type in I haven't typed in the frequencies or set any presets to channels that I want to, remember or keep. This radio also can do that. You can have up to, I think it's 100 stations or something. It can remember 100 different stations or something. It's a really good radio. Clay Ranger 143 put it at S tier. For DXing, it's going to be the king. It is one of the greatest DXing radios. Another incredible feature that I've heard that this radio has is it can decode AM and FM alerts and sound the siren, which only one other radio that I know can do that. And that's a First Alert. I can't remember. Is it the WX268? It might be that radio that can decode AM and FM alerts. This one can, which is surprising. And it has the same sounding sirens as the WX100 does. So it's literally a WX100, but 10 times better, with way more features. This is what the weather band sounds like.
Rain likely. Patchy fog. Lows in the lower 40s. East winds around 5 miles an hour. A 50%
There's
chance of showers.
KHC27.
Near steady temperatures in the mid-30s.
I
Light and variable
believe that's WWF60.
Monday, chance of rain 40%. Friday night, 30% chance of
That's
showers.
KJY85.
Highs in the 4 p.m. December. Tuesday night, mostly cloudy with a 50% chance of showers.
So they can pick up quite a few channels, and AM and FM as well. So for DXing next season, I think that this thing is going to be absolutely spot on. So we'll see how this thing rumbles in the future, but it is the replacement for the WX100. I am never buying another WX100. I don't really care how rare the WX100 is. It's a piece of garbage if it doesn't work. What's the point in buying a radio if it doesn't work? So that pissed me off. I wasted quite a bit of money on one. I'm not going to make that mistake again, at least with a radio like that. So BC370 CRS right next to my bed should serve me for a really long time, along with the 261 and the WR10 right next to it, and your 1630. On my other table next to my computer is the WX67 and the 74200. Anyway, back to the table. Now, this radio was the biggest, in my opinion, pain in the ass to obtain. No, it wasn't the WX100. No, it wasn't the WR30. No, it wasn't the BC's 370 CRS or any radio that I've ever sought after. Now, y'all may know, some of you, that Ruskin Emergency Alerts bought a black and silver back on October 1st. I was 1 minute, if not 30 seconds, short of buying it. If he did not buy it, I would have bought it because I immediately saw it around 10:13 a.m. I got on my computer, booted it up. I had a chance at buying it. And as soon as I clicked on it, he bought it. He got it the minute that I clicked on it. If I woke up 5 minutes earlier, I would have had a black and silver on this table. But congratulations, Tim. I have nothing against him. I'm just saying, I would have had a black and silver. And unfortunately, things are too good to be true, and I missed it by seconds. And that happens. And that would have been the most legend. I would have had every single version of WR100 if I had got that black and silver. Versions 1 through 5, which is incredible. I don't know. I mean, that's really rare. But the radio that I have sought after that's a WR100 besides the black and silver is the version 2 WR100. And y'all may know, well, how did you get a version 2? You know, it's so rare. It's not the rarest thing on the planet, but I'm going to tell you how. I had been trying to obtain one of these rare version Midlands, especially the V2 or the V1, but especially the version 2, for months and months and months. And they would always slip away. Every auction, someone would bid a ridiculous price, maybe over $700. This particular version 2, someone bid over $1,000 on it. $1,000. The seller relisted it as a buy it now / auction. And I was able to snag it. And no one knew that the seller re-uploaded this version. But it was the same listing, he just re-uploaded it. And I was able to snag it barely. There were plenty of other cases where I could have gotten a version 2, but someone else got it before me. Or someone bid it higher than me. And it was such a pain in the ass to obtain one of these. And yes, this version 2 is a mid-2003 version 2, and it was expensive for me to buy. It was honestly way too expensive for a version 2. It wasn't ridiculous. It wasn't like a WX100, but it was expensive. But I was like, if I'm getting a version 2, I'm getting it. And I bought it. The V2... How do you know if it's a version 2? Well, look at the difference. This is a version 3. The version 3 has a public alert logo at the top left. It has advisory for the base light. And these numbers usually are more in bold. Not numbers, letters. My bad. Those letters are more in bold, usually. They say same digital weather hazard alert monitor. It says the same thing on the V2. How you know it's a V2? If it says statement on it and it does not have the public alert logo, that's how you know it's a version 2, or even rarer. That's how you know. This radio put me through pain to obtain. A lot of EAS enthusiasts have the version 2. It is very rare. It is extremely uncommon. It's not the most uncommon radio, I'm not going to lie. It's a bit overrated, I'm not going to lie, but it is unbelievably rare, and the fact that I was even able to get one is lucky that seller relisted it. He didn't have to. He could have given that bidder, that bid over $1,000, he could have taken the money. He could have gotten a ton more money for this thing, but he decided to relist it. He was honest, he relisted it, and I was able to get it early in the morning because I decided, all right, I'm going to check eBay, and there I found it. I was like, I'm getting this. Now, the V2 setup is also different. You have time, same set, which I have it on any, channel, alarm, and that's it. You do not have an alert test on the version 2. You don't. That is a feature that is missing that the V3s implemented, which is pretty interesting to see that this radio in particular does not have an alert test, but they upgraded the firmware. The version 2 is the most simple radio you could probably ever set up. I mean, that is the most basic, simple radio you could set. There's nothing complicated about it. There's only like 4 features, while there's like 6 on the V3s and higher. And the WR100 as a radio in general is the pinnacle as far as legendary radios. I don't care what you say. Reliability, it's up there on the chart. I would say the Sangean CL100 is definitely the most reliable radio that I own. It is S tier as far as just reliability. The 120 is the same way. 120 is incredibly reliable. The V2 is not as reliable as some radios. It's a picky activator. It's not always going to activate for alerts. It will. It's going to be a lot like my version 4. Well, it will for some, but it won't for others. It did not for the last weekly test, which was a big disappointment. But it works. It's not like the WX100 where it doesn't work. It actually works.
Inches. The total precipitation for the year still stands at 39.87 inches. Sunset tonight is at 5:11 p.m.
If you can find a version 2, get it. Buy it immediately. I don't know how many more of these that are out there. They're getting harder to find with the price being reasonable because you have people that put them up for auctions and they go insane. Finding one of these, it was so hard for me to get one of these. It was so difficult. Not impossible, but it is very difficult. Especially with how fast people will buy them. I mean, you honestly have minutes, if not seconds, to spare to be able to buy one of these. So that is one of the only extremely rare, if not very rare, radios that I own. And I have been sought after one of these for so long, and I finally was able to buy one somehow. I have no clue. Honestly, the circumstances for me to buy this thing was incredible. I don't know how, but I finally got one. Finally, after so long. The next radio is equally as rare, if not even more rare, and I gotta thank Antonio or Pittsburgh EAS for selling me this one. He didn't have to, but he decided to reach out to me, and he sold it to me, and it was on eBay. Anyone could have bought it, so I got lucky that I was able to buy it in time. But it's the Midland WR300 version 1. And this is just as rare, if not rarer, than the V2. And Antonio, or Pittsburgh EAS, Cherry Man, whatever you would like to call him, great guy in the community. He decided to sell one of these. It was originally going to be an up for grabs. Anyone could buy it, in a group chat, but no one else could. I was the most interested in it. He put it up on eBay. It took me a dumb amount of time for it to show up on my PC before I could buy it. It was about 3 minutes. Someone could have easily snagged it before I did. I got lucky that I was able to buy it before someone else did. But it's so far, this radio is in decent condition. It's pretty good. The antenna's broken. However, he shipped an external antenna that was brand new, and the reception sounds incredible. I mean,
showers. Near steady temperatures in the mid-50s. Southwest winds around 5 miles an hour. The extended
absolute fantastic reception because of the external antenna. I have it up in my window, so it really does pick up well in the signal. The V1, in terms of rarity, is extremely hard to find. These, they're not impossible. Black and silver is more rare, you have to admit. But a version 1 is real. You're just not going to find one very often. You're just not. And you're even luckier if you can buy one. And I don't know how, honestly. It was right moment, right time that someone else didn't snag this before me. I honestly don't know how. But I was able to get it. And thank you, Pittsburgh EAS, for shipping me this thing. For allowing me to buy an incredibly rare radio that a lot of people love. Now, yes, the rare radios are overrated. As terms of reliability, they're not the most reliable. They're not the best. Radios like the 519, radios like the Sangean, radios like the AlertWorks, they're going to outperform it. But in terms of at least beloved radios, it takes the cake as far as one of the top ones. The rare version Midlands, always, people love them. People love them, and I can see why. Now, there is one glitch on the version 1s, especially the 300s. When you go through the channels quickly, even AM and FM, it glitches where you still hear, like, I'll do an example here. And also another thing about the V1, the button beeps. If you put the siren test on high, it puts the button beeps on high. Don't know why. It's just a weird firmware thing, and it's with all version 1s. So look how loud the button beeps are.
At 7:17 a.m.
But with the channel.
In the upper Eastern Standard Time observations for the Charlotte
That's
metropolitan
WXL70.
area on Sunday, December 4th, cloudy at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. It was most.
But there's ghosting in the channels. You hear the bleed of, like, my local station, WXL70, bleed in with KJY85. And it's a glitch. And it's with all version 1s. It's weird. It hinders DXing on a V1. It's probably not a great idea. You can do it, but you're going to have that stupid channel bleed when you're trying to go through the stations. It's just not a good idea. The V1 is more of a collector's item than anything as far as reliability. However, it did activate for its last weekly test, as you can see. So it has promises that it will perform and activate. Now, how do you know if you buy a version 1? I know the V4s, maybe the version 3s, if there are version 3s, yes they are, have advisory, and they have same digital, they have the text on the bottom. Version 5s through version 8s do not have the text on the bottom. It's just clean. That's a V5. And so far it's been working fantastic. In order to tell that's a V1, it says same digital weather hazard alert monitor. And the light is a statement. Pretty statement light. And that was pretty bad. As a pretty statement light. That's how you know it's a version 1. That's how you know that's a version 2. And that doesn't have that logo. And that's the older NOAA logo as well. So, in terms of rare radios in total, I used to own only one really, at least really rare, but a rare radio. That would be the 991 with the red logo. That was a bad one. The 382, I will admit, is more rare, and the HH54VP version 15. This one is also pretty rare. Not like extremely rare like this one or this one, but rare. It's kind of simple. 519 is a semi-rare radio. It comes up here and now. It's not as rare as the V2 or the V1, but it is rare. It's not the most common. Sometimes they're on the market, sometimes they're not. Sometimes you have to wait. It's just the way the ball rolls down the table. The 259s also that are beige are getting rarer as well, especially the ones with the public alert logo. Those are rare as well. So, in terms of rarity, I finally own a few radios in the community that are pretty darn rare. And that's really the only reason why I bought them. It's not as much as reliability. It's mainly collecting. And just, I think collecting is cool. A lot of people are like, why do you own so many radios? Well, I think collecting is cool. And if, being an EAS enthusiast, many of them around, why not collect vintage radios? Old radios that were reliable and are still reliable just for the fun of it. It's just a cool hobby. And no, you don't need this many radios to protect you on a daily basis for severe weather threats, to get warnings and watches. All you need is one or two. That's about it. But I decided to take a step forward and collect a total of 38. And that's pretty much where it's going to have to end, unless I see a black and silver or something. That's the only exception I'm going to make to buying more radios. I'm pretty much done at this point. I don't have the cap space either to really collect more anyway. So, as far as like where I was a year ago, I couldn't imagine myself now having as many as I do. And I'll be ready for next season, but it's cool. I have my other two radios, my 08500RX, as well as my version 3 also by Pittsburgh EAS up there. kind of next to each other. I had to space out the collection. So I have 26 on the table, 4 on the wall, 2 up there on my dresser, and then I have 4 behind me on next to my bed, and I have 2 on my other table next to my desk to the left. So, as far as future alerts, I am very stoked to see what happens next season with the quantity that I have. It's just going to depend. I'm pretty much done with collecting. There's very few else that I want. Less, like I said, it's a black and silver, maybe an older version 2. Anything like that, maybe. But you got to put a stopping point on the numbers as well with the way things are going. And prices nowadays are horrendous. So getting radios now, you're paying like twice as much than you would 2 to 3 years ago. So it's just the way things are, man. Anyway, I might end the video there. Thank you guys for watching. This is my collection update. I own a total of 40 weather radios, 38 in service. Appreciate all the support that all of y'all have given me over these past few years into this new hobby that I've decided to take up on. I've been interested in weather radios for a decade, since 2012, since I owned my first one, and I didn't start collecting really until really it was 2017 when I owned a total of 4, but really it was 2020 when I started really collecting. That's pretty much going to conclude this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Your next video I'll upload will probably be the weekly, or if maybe one day I might go review every single radio that I own, have a full collection update, and go through every radio. That might be what I do next. Anyway, this is Charlotte EAS, and I will see you all in the next one.